What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This I'm going to bring you my probably concluding review. This is the Gravely. This is the ZTX model 52-inch deck. This is essentially the cheapest residential mower via Gravely that you can buy at a dealership. So I got this at Coing, which is mainly a John Deere focused dealership, but they do have Gravely stuff. And I've had it for most of the summer now. It cuts, well, that's new grass, but it cuts most of our, we got a little bit under 3/4 of an acre. It's like 0.7, so it mainly cuts that. I previously had a Pro Turn because I used to cut commercially on the side, which is, this mower retails for $38.99. That one was about $8,500, so this is about half of that. So I thought I'd get a review of it up, see who it may be for, who may not be for. So first things, a few things about it. 52-inch deck, that's the only deck size that my dealership carries. They very rarely carry 48 or 42-inch decks. Mostly everything's 52 or 60 over there. So it does have a fully tubular fabricated deck. It's a fairly sturdy, robust deck for the price. So that's one reason why I got this over. I looked at some John Deere zero turns. I looked at some Toros. There was nothing in the Exmark line that was this price point. Same thing with Kubota. I have a dealership down the road, but they didn't have anything that was like under $6,000, so that wasn't an option. It does have the Kawasaki. This is the FR 691V. Basically, FR essentially means that it's a residential mower. You got your air filter here. Pretty big air filter. This is a tried and true motor, 23 horsepower. As you can see there, you got your fuel filter down there, and it's pretty easy to change the oil. The oil's down there. You can get this with a Kohler motor in it, but I would strongly recommend the Kawasaki. This is in just about every residential mower that you look at out there. There's different models. There's a 730V, but the 691 is a pretty popular model. So I think these are 20-inch. Yep, you get 20-inch here and then 11-inch in the front. So they're not the widest tires out there, so we'll stripe okay. Probably not the best model out there. 2.8 gallon gas tank. This thing's pretty fuel efficient. I very rarely have to fill it up, so it is a little bit more fuel efficient than my previous Pro Turn Gravely mower. Had an FX series, which was a little bit more thirsty when it comes to the fuel. So it does anything under an acre. You'll be able to cut it easily, probably a couple times without messing with that. So I've been pretty happy with that. As far as the outside of the mower, you do have a little bit of storage here. Generally, I put my phone or our baby monitor there. Almost never use a drink. The handles are where it's a little bit of a downgrade from some of the other models. This doesn't feel like the best material out there, and I just feel like they're too high up. So that's when it's all the way down. I have it adjusted to that's about as low as it can go. And for me, it just seems a little bit too high, but that's maybe a personal preference. I'm about 5'11", 6 foot, so take that into account. Everything's fairly easy to work on, easy to adjust. You can take these off really easily and change the belt. I don't know how easy the belt would be to change because there's not really a whole lot of access. You may have to actually take it off or drop it. The front wheels do require greasing, so there's a grease fitting. If I can find it on here. Yep, there it is. It's buried on this side. So there is a grease fitting right in there that you do have to actually grease from time to time. The deck lowers via this little mechanism. Push this little lever up, set your inch. I believe it goes 2.5 to 4.5. I usually cut mine around 3 inches, so it's a very convenient system to adjust your height on it. And then everything else is, you got your choke, your power there for your blades, and your throttle. Get your hour meter. Nothing fancy. Some of the John Deeres have a little bit more fancy displays on them. So the seat is probably the least comfortable seat I've ever had. previously had a John Deere Z540R, which had a pretty comfy seat, and my Pro Turn had a fully suspension seat, so I was kind of spoiled there. But the seat, to me, is not very comfortable, but you can upgrade this and get a different seat if you want. The armrests are fine, but it just doesn't seem like the best seat out there. If I was cutting 2-3 acres, I would probably look at a different model, just because it's not very comfortable. It's a pretty bumpy actual ride. For here, you do have some anti-skid there. You can get a pad for that, which is pretty cheap, straight through Gravely, or you can get it for your dealership. And then your handbrake, the seat does adjust front to back, which is a good feature. It's pretty easy to get in the right seating position on this mower. You don't sit very high, so if you want to sit lower to the ground, I think that's a big bonus of the Pro Tour model sit a little bit higher. So, and it doesn't have the roll system here on the back, which I don't need. All of my yard is pretty flat, so that's good. Extremely happy with the actual outside, how it looks, all the features there. I would say the biggest selling point for this is its actual cut. So I think that's mainly because it has the 52-inch deck, 3 blades, and it cuts just as well as my nearly $9,000 Pro Tour mower. It's almost identical in the cut. It's not as fast. It does have locked, unserviceable hydros. So I think I forget what model they are, but they're pretty common. But they're sealed, so there's no way to service them. And they only go 7 miles per hour forward and 3 in reverse. So it's a fairly slow mower. Again, if you have under a half an acre, I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. But it cuts really, really nice. This is our backyard, which isn't probably as nice cutting as the front. That's new grass there, so ignore that it's a little bit higher. But it does cut pretty nice, pretty evenly. It's pretty quick for our lawn. It's easy to turn, maneuver around. The hydros aren't as smooth as some of the ones that you could probably service, so it's a little bit jittery and a little bit difficult to get used to. Once you get used to it, it's a really smooth mower. Besides, I don't think the seat's very comfortable, but when it comes to just cutting and the actual quality of the cut, I think it's just as good as any of the probably $8,000 to $10,000 mowers you get out there. One negative about the cut is the side chute here does not have a way to keep it up all the time, so I just removed it. I'm never in a position where I'm shooting anything out unsafely into the road, so I just took it off altogether. It was the easiest thing. It was a pain. It was easy to take on and off, so that's something to just take into account, is that this stays. It's pretty hard to keep it up all the time. I just think it cuts a little bit better. Can shoot the grass out a little bit further when it's like that. All the wheels are adjustable on the deck, which you do not see this on every kind of commercial grade mower out there. So if you think you're gonna need to adjust something so it doesn't scalp, depending on how low you cut, that's something to go and take into account. I did notice one negative about this when it comes to the cut is I don't know how well this would do on hills. So if you have some steep hills that require a little bit more, maybe a little more horsepower, a little bit more grip, it doesn't do the greatest on. We have some teeny tiny hills here, but at least, and everything I've read is that it's not the greatest on the hills out there. Plenty of power though. This motor is probably overkill for it. Good service routine. You don't have to service it a lot. I don't think you service it. I think you just change the oil once a year, and I think everything else is like 200 or 250 hours for service. So I'm not going to be servicing this thing a whole lot. And from what I've read, if you take care of this motor, it will last your whole life. The only negative is that these hydros if they go out, I don't even know if you can replace them. I assume they could just bolt on and off, but you are going to have to replace those if something goes bad, because there's not any way to service them. The mower's pretty compact for just how much you get for $3,800. If you go to Lowe's or Home Depot and start looking at some of the mowers there, you don't get a whole lot for $3,800. That's probably the cheapest mower that you're going to probably get, unless you want a riding mower. And I've cut this grass with a riding lawnmower, and it did not do very good. And it took probably about as long as it would take with a big push mower. Like if you had a 30-inch push mower, it was just a little bit cumbersome. So positives: excellent motor, excellent cut, pro quality cut. You could cut commercially with this, but you would need to be careful on the small fuel tank, the sealed hydros, and it's probably not going to last as long as like a Pro Turn or even an HD model. But I think it's a high quality mower for your price point. So I think that's something. I do not like that these require grease. I prefer, like, the deck doesn't require any grease. You don't have to worry about that. It's just one more extra step that you got to make sure that you do. So excellent motor, good cut, good efficiency. So the gas tank very rarely needs fueled up, which gas is expensive right now, so that's kind of nice. Easy to adjust the deck. There's tons of positives on this. The few negatives: the seat, I don't know if I'd count that as a negative, but it's not the most comfortable thing, but you can get a different seat for this. So that's a big plus. The sealed hydros are kind of jittery. They're not as smooth. You do get used to it, so it's not, I wouldn't say if that's even a negative either, but you don't get, it's just not as smooth as, I think I had the hydros 3200, or maybe it was the 3400 on my previous Pro Turn, and it was just a really smooth riding mower. These handles, I don't like the grips on these. They're very uncomfortable to me, at least, compared to my previous John Deere C540R, which is also it's a little bit more expensive residential mower, but it's like $5,800, so it was a little bit more comfortable. But that's really it. You can also take the wheels off, so they're easy to service if you need to replace these. I really think that this is probably, if you take care of it, you could probably get 1,000 hours out of this mower. Don't quote me on that, but for how well we usually take care of stuff here and how easy our yard is to cut, it's almost all flat with not a whole lot of issues there. I think it will last for the foreseeable future. I don't see any negatives that would overturn that. And the motor is a strong motor, easy to service, not a whole lot of service intervals. That's really it. Those are the positive, negatives, my thoughts on it. I've only had it for 6.3 hours, but honestly, that's all I need. It only takes me about 25 minutes to cut our grass, sometimes 20, depending on how much weed eat and stuff I have to do, but it's a solid mower. Definitely get it at a dealership, though, because they come with 3-year warranties. So if you need something service, it's easier to go to a dealership than have to go to Lowe's or have to deal with like a Aries manufacturer. My dealership's really good in this area, so if something happens, I could take it there and probably not have any issues with getting something fixed. So that's it. I'm really happy with it for the price point. They do have 0% financing. We paid cash for it, but you do have that option if you're wanting to do that. If you have any comments, questions, leave them below and I will get back to you. Have a good rest of the day, weekend, whatever's out there, and I'll see you guys next time.